Welcome in to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. It is officially week 1. I am not home. I am on remote in New Hampshire, which is why I have a handheld microphone with a beautiful yellow covering right now. But it doesn't matter. It is week 1 of the NFL season. No Pun Intended is officially back after a month-long hiatus due to the Women of Fantasy Football, which we appreciate every single one of you for tuning in and supporting the Women's Sports Foundation as well. Shout out to our raffle winners as well. But that's not what we're here for today. We are too excited to talk about week 1 of the NFL season, and we're so excited to be wrong about everything because no one knows anything because it's week 1. Let's ride. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. Joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weisse. And I almost had to compose myself before we came on. I want to apologize because my camera isn't exactly the greatest right now. It's coming off of my laptop, and I'm not on the greatest Wi-Fi. Shout out to my parents for having Xfinity and that garbage.
Well, I don't think they're ever sponsoring us now. Thanks, Joe.
I don't want them to sponsor us. I don't want to use their product. There's a reason we have Thrive. It's because I want to use their product. That's it's the whole reasoning. So I teased Ryan saying, I feel like I'm using Mozilla Firefox on my 110 kilobit dial-up internet. So for long-time viewers,
dying laughing backstage too.
Yes, long-time viewers will understand. All right, before we dive into everything, let's give you guys a little rundown in case you're new or may have forgotten how the show runs. We do our upside downsides. Ryan runs over his streams of the week. We'll add in my blurred lines picks as well. I have 3 this week. Yeah, I'm getting really real cocky here. And then our newest partner, Thrive Fantasy, which we'll talk about in a little bit. They have a bunch of prop bets, and we're going to do props for tomorrow night's game. We each picked one. That's what we're going to do for the rest of the show. And starting off first, some news and notes. Chris Godwin, he missed practice on Tuesday. He was a full participant today and not on the injury report heading into Thursday's game. It was mostly an in-practice injury that took place, but I don't think it should concern any fantasy owners. It's week 1. I don't think Chris Godwin's going to miss it unless he can't walk. Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver now for the Washington football team, non-participant after tweaking his groin. His status is up in the air for Sunday against the Chargers. And in that same token, Chargers running back Austin Eckler didn't practice today. I believe that tweet came out probably 2 or 3 hours ago. He was spotted off to the side with trainers. There's no real word on what the potential injury is, but just note that Austin Eckler do not participate today. The Saints released Alvin Kamara, making way for Tony Jones Jr., not Tony James.
The Saints released Latavius Murray.
Who did I say?
Alvin Kamara.
Oh, it says New Orleans released running back, and then it says Alvin Kamara right underneath. I was more focused on the Saints released Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray as the starting running back. You heard that correct?
Shit their pants.
No, you heard that correct. You heard that correct. Alvin Kamara out of the NFL, Latavius Murray the starting running back for your New Orleans Saints. No, Latavius Murray has been released. I was more so focused on the typo of Tony James Jr. because it's Tony Jones Jr.
Jones.
Put some
That's my fault. Sorry.
Put some respect on the RB2 there, Joshua. Tony Jones is now the RB2 behind Alvin Kamara. And more running back mess. Justice Hill is done for the season for the Ravens. Le'Veon Bell on the practice squad officially. And Trenton Cannon is signed to the active roster. He's had stints. His most famous stint is with the New York Jets.
I believe he was with the Panthers too.
Yeah. He was with the Panthers as well, but he had like a viable fantasy game for the Jets.
They even said they brought him in because he can play special teams. That's literally all they're
He's a really good
so.
Special teamers. Yep. That's the whole reason he was on the Jets and the Panthers in the first place.
I covered the Panthers for Football Guys, and it looked like he was going to make the team to play special teams for them, and then everything just went backwards. So,
but obviously, what do they always tell you? If you can play special teams, you'll find a spot on an NFL roster. And
he wasn't unemployed long.
Exactly. All right, let's dive in here into the upsides and downsides. I'm kind of going to run it the same as last year. I'll read through everybody's, then we get to pick one person we want to highlight. So, Joshua, you have Jalen Hurts in Atlanta. That's more just a confidence booster for himself as an Eagles fan. Ty Johnson against the Carolina Panthers. For those of you that don't know, Ty Johnson plays for the Jets, because I also had to wonder who Ty Johnson played for as I read that. Wow, really going with the ego boost here. Devonta Smith in Atlanta.
Don't worry,
really
we'll
doubling down on his Eagles. Okay. And Tyler Higbee against
down because I almost put a tight end in there too.
I mean, Atlanta's terrible, so it's not like you're doubling down on anything, tough here.
Yeah,
but
Doug,
Tyler,
they're terrible.
Yeah, they're very bad. They're very bad. Tyler Higbee at the tight end as well for Josh. Ryan, you have Sam Darnold in his revenge game against the New York Jets at home.
Baby.
Raheem Mostert in Detroit. Brandon Cooks home against the Jaguars. And Tyler Kroft in Carolina. Is he the tight end for the Jets?
Literally the only tight end for the Jets. I mean, they brought in another guy afterward, but he is the only one who was in training camp and then made the team.
Nice. All right. And then for myself, I have Matt Stafford against the Chicago Bears. Philip Lindsay against the Jaguars. DJ Moore against the Jets. And Rob Gronkowski Thursday night, against the Dallas Cowboys. Josh, I mean, you could talk about both Eagles if you want to, but a little more intrigued on Devonta Smith. I mean, I'm not going to say he didn't look bad in preseason. It's just that offense didn't seem to really run efficiently.
Smith missed some time with some injuries. The good thing is, obviously, he has a built-in rapport with Hurts going back to college. I mean, obviously, that was a few years ago, but you saw that a lot just in the NFL draft, like teams sort of scooping up players that like their quarterback had some sort of familiarity with, Jaguars doubling down with Clemson and Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, the Dolphins with Tua and Waddle, the Eagles with Smith and Hurts. But for me, it really boils down to this. Atlanta, their secondary is god-awful. Last year, they allowed the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers last year. And this is a fun little stat that I dug up about former Clemson Tiger cornerback, AJ Tyrell, who I know Joe likes to talk about as a good IDP corner because he makes tackles. Well, making tackles is great, but it's not good when you're giving up a ton of yards and a ton of passes and ultimately cannot cover your wide receivers.
Facts.
So AJ Tyrell last year was top 25 among corners in snaps per reception allowed. Now, if you don't really quite understand that stat, I'm going to sort of lay it out for you here. Of those 25, only 3 finished with a coverage grade per Pro Football Focus above 60. Now, 60 is roughly, we'll say, average, right? So only 3 of those corners were moderately average. And last year, in terms of coverage grade, AJ Tyrell was 75th at a 57.0. He is not good at covering wide receivers. Devonta Smith just won the Heisman Trophy and is one of the smoothest route runners to come out of the league this year, or to come out of college going into this year. Yeah. I'm all in. I'm concerned a little bit if Jalen Hurts is going to be able to get him the ball consistently because, let's face it, he had a 52%.
I'd say 52% completion.
But like Smith he has every opportunity right now to absolutely light up this Falcons secondary, and I'm all here for it.
You know what's interesting is Devonta Smith went to Alabama, and I feel it's bold of you as a Miami Hurricanes fan to put an Alabama player, actually 2 Alabama players.
We're not talking about Saturday.
Well, no, I want to because that's the last football that was really played at a high level, at least on one side of the football. So I just want to know why are the Hurricanes ranked 13th? Because I feel like that's stupid. They haven't been good since the 90s. So I just really want to know.
False, because they won a national championship in the early 2000s. Thank you very much.
Okay,
but neither here nor there.
Congratulations, Dallas Cowboys. Keep living in the past. I don't know what you want from me out of this conversation. I just think it's an abomination that the University of Miami was ranked 13th.
I've been saying for years that they're overrated. It's not going to stop me from rooting for them, but they keep ranking them, and I don't understand why.
Well, because you put guys like Devonta. Oh no, I take that back. Sorry, that was the wrong way. Yeah, I don't even know who they have. Isn't De'Ara King supposed to be a Heisman candidate and he can't throw the football? But then again, Lamar
Derek
Jackson
King
won
tore
MVP.
his ACL,
So
I believe, in last year's bowl game. I'm actually surprised he was able to play.
oh, rip. That's okay. He's a good athlete. I know that. All right, Ryan.
Not a great quarterback.
I'm interested. I'm a little interested in Brandon Cooks. I feel like he's the most polarizing. I mean, I guess Tyler Kroft as well, but he's the only tight end available. So at that point, de facto. But Brandon Cooks, obviously, the skill is undeniable.
Yeah.
He hasn't had under 1,000-yard season in his career. Been to multiple different teams, done it with multiple different quarterbacks. So I guess it doesn't really beg the question that, okay, he has Tyrod Taylor. Should we be worried? Cooks has done it with a bunch of different people, but I don't know if he's done it with anyone as bad as Tyrod Taylor. Why are you high on Cooks this week?
I mean, obviously, Tyrod Taylor's not Deshaun Watson. Tyrod Taylor's not a top 32 quarterback in the NFL, shouldn't be starting, but he is a quarterback in the NFL. He's going to recognize who his weapons are. And let's be clear, it's Brandon Cooks. It's none of these running backs yet. It's especially none of these running backs when people can focus on these running backs. It's certainly not Nico Collins or any of the other plethora of wide receivers. And I'm not saying that Nico Collins might not be good down the road. Week 1 is not the time to be gambling on a rookie on a bad NFL team. I don't think, this is going to sound ridiculous, I don't think 15 targets is out of the question for Brandon Cooks. I literally think they're going to funnel him the ball. He's healthy. We know what he can do when he's healthy. He's going to have boom or bust games. This feels like a boom game. And then I went back and looked. This is not a terribly different Jacksonville team from what they were last year. If anything, they're not as good, plus a new coaching staff. Cooks went off 244 and 2 touchdowns against Jacksonville last year in 2 games. He knows how to beat them. It's a new coach in Houston as well. They're not going to throw the ball very much, but when they do throw it, I think it's going to Cooks, and I think he's criminally underrated. He was criminally underrated in drafts this year, and he's not being highly enough considered in DFS and weekly contests right now. I think he's going to have a great game.
He could get end arounds, too. I feel like maybe 1 or 2.
He's the only good offensive player on that team right now.
Yeah.
I hate that everyone's discounting Phillip Lindsay. Like, I don't think Phillip Lindsay's that bad.
I never said he was bad. I didn't say he was good.
I don't know that you brought up, has Brandon Cooks played with a quarterback as bad as Tyrod Taylor? I don't know that we've seen Phillip Lindsay on a team as bad as this Houston team, to where Phillip Lindsay's able to get loose when you have a quarterback who can throw the ball down the field and wide receivers who can catch the ball down the field and a decent tight end in Noah Fant. There's no one like that on this team other than Brandon Cooks. I don't know. I think you're going to continually see 7 in the box against Houston because of what Tyrell Taylor brings, because of Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson. It's going to be up to the wide receivers and a guy I'm going to talk about later, Jordan Akins, to win matchups in one-on-one coverage. So,
see, I also think that they should probably stack the box. The interesting part is, I don't think their head coach has a brain. So that may take us for a real spin if Urban Myers throws, nickel packages out there on first down, because his brain sticks with college football, and he hasn't coached since 2014. I feel like that's wrong, but I think that's when Ohio State won their national championship, and then he just walked away on top, which smart, and now he's back for a beating. But
he's back for a paycheck. I mean,
I don't tell me Fox wasn't paying him handsomely to talk about college football.
Fair.
Right? So he didn't have a job that was well paying. I was gonna say 2014 did not seem correct. I just know that was the year Ohio State won their national championship. Let's get to a couple of these questions here first before I get into my upside.
And thank you for the questions.
Yes, of course. We always appreciate the questions. And 2, all your start sit questions as well. We answer those Saturday at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Question mark, 11 a.m.? Nice.
Like 4 in the morning for you. Oh, I thought you were talking about how early it was. Is that 4 in the morning for you out there? And
in Bismarck? No, that's 10 a.m., Ryan. Jeez. Out in what a lot of people call Canada's Mexico is what North Dakota is called.
That is what I will now refer to it
because of all the diversity
Canada's
we have
Mexico.
in North Dakota. Yeah, because of all the diversity we have in North Dakota.
Exactly.
Yeah, all 95% white population, all that diversity we have up there. Okay, Dan Rice. He's being offered Brandon Ayuk and James Conner for a 2022 fourth. Oh, and a 2022 fourth for T. Higgins and Mike Davis. It's a half-point PPR in Dynasty. So he would be receiving Ayuk, Connor in the fourth. He would be giving up Higgins and Mike Davis.
I mean, this trade is literally Higgins for Ayuk. It's just which one do you like better?
Well, Higgins for Ayuk with a fourth-round kicker.
Exactly. Which is
so. Yeah, and that's Dan. It's honestly on you. Ryan said it. It's do you like Ayuk or Higgins more? And with it being a half
the running
point,
backs don't matter to me at all.
Yeah, no, the running backs are null and void at that point. Mike Davis will be nothing next year. James Conner will be nothing next year. So you're not playing for the future there. And honestly, this year they're probably not going to be great anyways. It's a half point. I would honestly lean T. Higgins because I think Higgins will get in the end zone more. But
I'm not comfortable making that trade yet. I like Ayuk. I was habitually higher on Ayuk than most people this offseason. But it's still wait and see because I don't know the stats off the top of my head. If you look at the Ayuk stats when Debo and Kittle played, they're not great. It's something like 4 targets per game or something like that. So Higgins is a proven commodity on a team that is willing to throw the ball 40 times a game. And
but also just been a top 5 pick on a wide receiver. So there's that concept as well.
I mean, 3 receivers.
And again, I like Higgins for this year, but I do think that Jamar Chase draft pick does affect his long-term future value because you're assuming that Burrow is just going to continue to throw 650 times every single game, or every single season, which again could still be the case. But when you pay Joe Mixon, at a certain point, you have to give him the football.
What's Boyd's contract look like, though? I mean, they may not be able to
Boyd signed
a forever.
4-year deal, I believe it was last year.
He's got like 2 or 3 more years. Yeah, he's still like they have their receivers for a while.
Well, that's even more interesting, though, because that means Boyd's contract and Higgins' contract are likely to run out at the same time. So that'll be an interesting thing in 3 years, too. But we'll talk about that 3 years from now in episode 610.
Yeah. But Dan, it's honestly who you feel more confident in with Ayuk and Higgins?
I would stick with the Higgins-Davis side. I think Davis puts you – I love James Conner. Again, your left side of your trade, I'm way higher than the consensus on both of those two. I'm higher on Higgins than I am Ayuk. I'm higher on Davis than I am Connor. If you want to win this year and it's probably better for the future, I'm with Higgins and Davis.
Yep. All right. First start sit of the season, Summit 3_K. Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts this week? I would go Jalen Hurts. Josh?
Same. And as we'll get to with our downsides, you'll see how I feel about Herbert.
I'm going to hedge like I always do. If you're a favorite, I would go Herbert. If you're an underdog, I would go Hurts. There's more upside in Hurts because he might just eat Atlanta alive. So
he could also rush for 100 yards against that awful.
Oh, he could rush for 150 yards against Atlanta.
Yeah, against that terrible defense. All right. Greg, I am not even going to try and pronounce your last name. Greg C. It's a redraft PPR league. So this is redraft. He got offered Brandon Ayuk and Myles Gaskin for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darnell Mooney. I would not take that.
Yeah, keep Clyde and Mooney. Oh, Josh.
No.
I love Mooney. I'm not into Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year, and I
not
love
either.
Ayuk. Yeah, I love Ayuk and Gaskin. I think there's a lot of upside there, especially if they're willing to give him the football, which it seems like they're willing to do.
Well,
they'll treat him more like a 3-down guy.
And that's what it sounded like. But then the coach is hitting us with this committee. They love Salvon Ahmed. They love Malcolm Brown. I think Malcolm Brown is certainly going to vulture. And Gaskin only had, I think, 3 rushing touchdowns last year. Again, I'm higher on your left side than most people. I love Myles Gaskin. I've been toting him since he was the 7th round pick out of Washington. But I do like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I want a piece of that offense. There's nobody behind him. I think CEH bounces back big this year.
That's fair.
I'm on the I hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm still on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mooney side. I think he's a bum. So I'm still on the Mooney side is where I would go there. And if you're listening to the right side of the podcast, you would stay with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darnell Mooney, just for the record.
So, am I the left side, or
I was about to say? So Ryan's on the left side when it.
Well, I'm on your side on
matters
this one, but
to
I'm
you,
saying
and then
when
he's on
I'm
the right
wrong,
when it doesn't. Is that it?
Yeah, exactly.
When you're wrong, you go to the left side. I'm always
okay.
on the
That's
right
what I
side.
want. I didn't know what you meant by right. I love it.
I'm always on the right side. Come on now.
Okay.
From our buddy Gemmo, how early are you drafting Javonte Williams if he is your guy, as he puts him. I can speak on this. Gemmo, I have drafted Javonte Williams 3 or 4 times in redraft. He is my 4th running back, maximum in every league. Then again,
I start with 3 running backs.
Yeah, because in one league I went Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson.
Okay.
And then got Gus Edwards, then Javonte Williams. Ask me how good my running backs are.
Yeah.
And again, I think, Gemmo, you're playing with the idea that you don't think Javonte Williams starts until week 8. Like, I think that's how you have to play it, because Melvin Gordon is still...
I think he's going to be starting week 1. Like, that's just kind of... It feels the way that they're talking, like... They believe in this guy. Like,
well, here's how I'm looking at Williams, and this would definitely boost his ADP up. I'm not drafting him like this, but Josh, you bring up an interesting point. I think he does start earlier than week 8. In any league where I can keep guys for next year, I honestly view Javonte Williams this year how I was viewing Jonathan Taylor last year, because I knew it was going to take him time into the season to blow up. Now, last year I thought it was going to be Marlon Mack holding him back, but they still used Jordan Willikins and all those guys. But I think Javonte, by the end of this season, is a first 3 rounds draft pick next year. He's an RB1 easily. I think he's a guy you're going to want on your team. So if there's any sort of keeper aspect to it, I'm willing to take him in the 5th round after I've gotten a stable of running backs, just to make sure I have him if I can keep him next year. And for anyone who watching us right now, you should subscribe to Gemmo. Great show he does over there. Interviews a ton of people. Most interesting topics on YouTube. That's a show worth watching.
You should go back and watch the show from like a month ago on August 7th. Guess they had on really cool dude. Honestly, if you ask me, really cool guy.
I would say his earliest, if he's your guy, take him in the 4th.
Yeah, I was going to say
your guy.
What's funny is, and I was catching shit last year for taking Taylor in like the 3rd, 4th turn area, and people are like, "Oh, you're way too early on him." And now nobody's saying that, and it could be the exact same scenario with Javonte Williams. So.
You are asking a guy if you should take a running back in the 5th round who drafts 3 in the first 3 rounds.
Exactly.
So, yes. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah, I think 5th, 6th is kind of like where he seems to be going, but
yeah. I got my dad on the 3 running back train, and he is so angry about it. You have no idea. We were in like 3 leagues together. He was sitting next to me. He's like, "Fuck you, Joe. I'm taking a 3rd running back in the 3rd round." I'm like, "Yeah."
I was lucky enough to do a mock draft with Denny Carter from NBC Sports, and he is a 0 running back fanatic and very much preaches against the fragility of running backs. And I do the same, Joe. And so I took 3 running backs and preached 3 running backs. It looked like his head was going to explode on the stage. And Denny is a great fantasy analyst, far smarter than I am. And so like I had to argue with him about why I felt running backs were the way to go. So that was fun.
I almost went 3 straight running backs in a 14-team league. I had to stop myself. Like I almost did that.
That's spicy at that point.
Oh, it was very spicy. I got Javonte as my 3rd in that one.
I know everybody hates hearing it, but wide receiver is so obscenely deep, and that's why it's hard for me to make these trades where like you're upgrading Mooney to Ayuk. If you're looking to upgrade Mooney, there's probably someone on your waiver wire. That's just how crazy it is right now.
I took 3 straight running backs, ended up with Chris Godwin and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. That's essentially what most of my teams look like. We all have Deontay Johnson because we're friends with Josh, but
yeah. I hated it. I took Deontay Johnson. I said, I hate him. And then I hit the plus button to draft him.
Yep.
And by him, I mean Josh.
We're drafting Josh. That's all we're doing. At least we have a punching bag if he screws us over.
It's all good.
If he sucks, Josh owes me $100 for the league buy-in.
Trust me, I'll be losing a lot of money too if he sucks.
Yeah. All right, my upside. I mean, I'll say DJ Moore. I didn't like that everyone was being mean to DJ Moore. I think he has 0 value in a standard. Let's get that out of the way. He sucks in standard leagues. But if Teddy Bridgewater had eyes, which I'm not convinced Sam Darnold does, but if Teddy Bridgewater had eyes, DJ Moore had an extra 5 catches for probably 250 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. And we all know it too. We can recall the games where DJ Moore was wide open on a short drag route and there was nobody in front of him. So, and we know his speed. So I love DJ Moore against a terrible secondary in the New York
I was
Jets.
just going to say, let me throw some names at you. Brandon Eccles, Javelin Guidry.
Javelin? That's sick.
That's a dope name. Bryce Hall and Michael Carter. Not that Michael Carter. If you're wondering, those are the Jets starting corners. So it's going to be a field day for Carolina.
Pretty sure you can dial up Terrace Marshall and Robbie Anderson as well. So.
Yeah.
You know, if you're feeling frisky, throw Dan Arnold in there. If you're really feeling frisky.
Right.
You want to get real on the edge? You really feeling like putting your balls on the table? Chuba Hubbard, because they're going to blow him out so fast that Chuba comes into the game in relief for Christian
I was hoping
McCaffrey.
you were going to pick on me about Darnold. So the Jets last year, again, we have to go a lot on last year's statistics. The Jets last year were third worst against the quarterback, and it was close. They were actually not terrible against the running back, but it's Christian McCaffrey. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad against the running back. They were one of the worst against wide receivers, and I think the absolute worst against tight ends. The Panthers are going to feast. I am looking forward to this game.
Oh, and the Jets traded away Sam Darnold for packing peanuts.
Yeah,
and a
it's
Slurpee.
double revenge game. It's Darnold
So-
and Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie Anderson could break the single game receiving yards record. Like, no doubt in my mind with that speed. All right, I'm gonna go to downsides here really quick. But I do see we have one more from Michael, who was with us, I think, every week last year.
I was going to say, I don't think we make Michael wait. Let's throw it.
Yeah,
in.
we appreciate you, Michael. I assume it's Chris Carson or Gus Edwards. I am actually faced with a Gus Edwards dilemma in one of my leagues. In this scenario, it's not even close. It's Gus Edwards, in my opinion. Oakland or Las Vegas.
There it is. First one of the year.
Oh, jeez. God. I still call them Oakland. That defense is bad.
That's my
defense
biggest.
is
That's my
really
biggest
bad.
blowout of the week in my projections. I think Gus Edwards is probably looking at 20 carries this week. So
Easy. And 2 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, I'm all on board the Gus Edwards train this week. And don't get me wrong, I think Chris Carson will have a pretty solid week. But if forced between those two, give me Gus Edwards.
Yeah, but Chris Carson's going to fumble away 2/3 of one touchdown because he'll lose 4 points for you on your team. Chris Carson, week 1, is a guaranteed fumble. Every single year, he's a guaranteed fumble because he hasn't played football in that amount of time. So I would go Gus Edwards. Yep, in consensus there. All right, downsides. God, I remember last year when everyone said, Joe, why'd you put Justin Herbert as a downside against the New England Patriots? Why'd you do that, Joe? That's so stupid. He's on fire. He's been a top 5 quarterback each of the last 5 weeks. You just wait and see. It's all come full circle now, Joshua. Josh has him as his downside in Washington against the football team. Aaron Jones at New Orleans, as he puts in quotation marks. And for those that don't know, New Orleans will be playing, at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, Florida, due to the hurricane that just went through New Orleans. He also has Chase Claypool as a downside in Buffalo, and TJ Hawkinson at home against the 49ers. Ryan, you have Ryan Tannehill against the Arizona Cardinals. That doesn't make me feel good. Nick Chubb in Kansas City. Kenny Golladay home against the Denver Broncos. Actually, can you let CBS Sports know that Nick Chubb is your downside? Because they have him projected for 22 points this week, and it's pissing me off. They have James Robinson projected for 13, and Nick Chubb projected for 21. I'm projected to lose by 30 points in that league because of their dumbass projections.
Projections mean squat.
nothing.
I got a D- draft rating in that league. I was
That
pissed.
probably means you're going to make the playoffs. So
I was utterly pissed. Okay. Kenny Golladay against Denver, Logan Thomas against the Los Angeles Chargers. Myself, I have Trevor Lawrence against Houston, Austin Eckler against Washington, Tyrek Hill against the Cleveland Browns, and Evan Ingram against Denver. I remember last year for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I had picked multiple running backs or receivers that were on my average Joe picks that after I picked them later that week, got injured in practice and did not play on Sunday. If that trend continues this year, I may stop picking upside downside because I have Austin Eckler in 3 leagues. Now, I am benching him in every single league, regardless of if he starts. I don't like him at all this week against the best defense in the NFL right now on paper.
Right up there, yeah.
So, I mean, I won't go too much into Austin Eckler because, one, he's hurt right now, and two, everyone knows how good that Washington football front seven is. Yes, he may get all these different yards and things like that. Yeah, play your studs unless it's Justin Herbert against the New England Patriots. But sure, Chris, you keep doing that. You keep doing that. You keep doing that. The guy I'll focus on is I'll go Tyrek Hill. I would focus on Trevor Lawrence, but he's a rookie. Like, I don't want to. I'll get more into that with my blurred lines pick. Tyrek Hill, ready? So here's me hating my picks, right? I don't like Tyrek Hill as a person. I think he's overrated. I think all he does is run straight. His route running is clean. It's not crisp. Ryan brought up a stat. This is the thing that was ringing in my head. Ryan brought up the stat that Tyrek Hill has only finished as a wide receiver 1 in 50% of his games in the last 3 years or something. You said like that.
It's actually below 50, I'm pretty sure, but yeah.
And that was like, okay. And again, like, I don't know what our rules are this year. I think they have to finish outside the top 30. But I don't know if he does that, but I don't expect Tyrek Hill to put up 9th overall drafted in your league numbers this week. Cleveland's defense is much better than they were in the playoffs last year when Hill went 8 for 110 against them. And again, I'm putting so much stock into the fact that if Cleveland double covers Tyrek Hill and lets Travis Kelce run wild and rushes 4 or maybe 5 to the passer, Cleveland will win that game.
And they
There's
have
no
the
doubt in my
personnel to do it. Is the
exactly.
big thing, so.
They're one of probably 2 or 3 defenses in the league that can rush 4 and get away with it. They could rush 2, and Myles Garrett would still take on 3 offensive linemen and break through. So I'm interested. And also, this is an offensive line that has not played real time together at all in a game. Like, there's a bunch of new
literally just
pieces.
thinking that.
So
Yeah.
so the
They
from a
need some time to
communication, some time to gel. Like, the individual skill on that offensive line that they brought in, like Joe Tooney is an all-pro. They brought in great skill for that O-line. The communication is probably not there, so they're probably going to need a few weeks to gel. Myles Garrett should have a field day, probably 2 or 3 sacks. Anyone want to chime in on Tyrek Hill if you disagree?
No, I completely agree. And you hit a nail on the head that I was going to hit. I started this offseason really up on Kansas City's offensive line because of what they brought in, but you really did a great job of, they haven't played together. Matt Batanti over at Football Guys does the offensive line rankings, and this is kind of like a world he lives in. He has the Chiefs offensive line ranked 30th for next year. Like, it's not a great offensive line yet. It has to gel. It has to prove itself. The Browns front 7 is not the proving ground you want. Myles Garrett, obviously. Jadeveon Clowney has looked great in training camp. They're getting Tack McKinley back, which Tack McKinley on his own isn't great, but Tack McKinley as a breather when one of those guys has to go out, and now you have a tired offensive line and they have to go against another fast guy who hasn't had to play and hasn't been tired. It's a game-changing sort of element. Not to mention one of the best secondaries. We've talked about great front sevens can hide a bad secondary. Well, great secondaries give great front sevens a lot of time to work. This game could go way different than a lot of people in the fantasy world and in the NFL world are projecting. Cleveland could give them a run for their money.
I want to say this really quick, mostly because I see some of Chris's comments here. I just want to point out, when we say downside, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying outright bench them.
No, you can't.
It just, like, look, you spent a first, second round pick on Tyrek Hill. The odds that you legitimately have a better option are slim.
Yeah.
So yes, you are still starting them.
But here's where that decision we talked about earlier comes
temper the expectations.
Yeah.
You're probably, don't pay up for them in DFS, that type of situation. It's, if you're expecting top 12 numbers, get new expectations. That's
and also,
what we're getting at.
And if you're making a decision between Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts and you have Tyrek Hill on your roster, maybe you do lean Hurts for the upside then, because you're losing your built-in upside that you would normally have in Tyrek Hill. So you're going to find that upside somewhere else. We're going to talk about this later. That's where you take your big swings on defense and even kicker, because you're losing the. I don't see a scenario in which Tyrek Hill cracks 20 fantasy points, and that's what you kind of want when you take Tyrek Hill in the first round of a fantasy draft. So instead of maybe running out Pittsburgh's defense against Buffalo, you go sign a team like Carolina, who has massive upside this week because you're going to find those lost Tyrek Hill points elsewhere. But you're not benching Tyrek Hill.
No, you're not. Well, yeah, the reason you have Tyrek Hill is boom or bust, and you can't bench a boom or bust guy, especially when you draft him that high. I am legitimately benching Austin Eckler. I will happily tweet out my lineups and show you I am benching Austin Eckler in every league. Again, the league I draft 3 straight running backs.
So if all goes well and you were able to get David Montgomery or Chris Carson as your third running back, you may actually have a better option.
Which I'm not that high on Monty this week either.
I am not high on Montgomery at all this week. But I have Jonathan
just throwing
Taylor.
That out there. But.
Yeah. So in one league, I think there's only one league I'm not benching Eckler, and it's a 14-team league with 4 people on the bench. So the bench is non-existent. Yeah. That's probably the only league I'm not
at that point.
I physically can't bench Austin Eckler at that point. I think my backup running back is Javonte Williams. So he's in my lineup at flex. I can't. But in the league I know off the top of my head, I'm benching Austin Eckler. I am playing Robert Woods, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor. And I am perfectly fine with that. I subbed out Eckler, put in T. Higgins. My Cincinnati is going to be playing from behind against Minnesota. T. Higgins will get his time there. I don't foresee a scenario where Austin Eckler has over 50 rushing yards unless he breaks a 20-plus yard rush because the rest of them are averaging 2 yards a carry. That defense is too good, in my opinion. And I stick to my word. I've been saying since last season, Washington is the best defense in the NFL. If I think they're the best defense in the NFL, I'm not playing a smaller running back against them. A guy like Derrick Henry, trot out. They give Henry the ball 30 fucking times a game. But Eckler, now he's injured too.
Yeah.
So all that.
This was an interesting stat I found about Washington when I was doing my research. And again, this is kind of why I'm down on Herbert this week. So Justin Herbert had 11 out of 15 games last year where he had either 300 passing yards or 3 or more touchdowns. The amount of games that Washington allowed with those same scenarios were like that.
Yep.
They only had
William Jackson.
One game with 3 or more touchdown passes and 3 with 300 or more passing yards, and one of those was in the playoffs to Tom Brady. And they added William Jackson III to that secondary, which was largely unchanged from last year. The only real miss that they have on this defense is they lost Ryan Kerrigan, who was only playing situational pass rushing anyway.
Imagine losing a first round.
Got better.
Yeah.
Imagine losing a first round defensive end to only have 4 more in front of him that you can play.
And let's not forget show favorite Yamin Davis.
Yamin Davis. Number 1 show favorite, though. Cameron Curl's about to play a full 17 games for the Washington football team. All right, let's get a couple of these questions into before we move into anything more. Michael asked if you would start Cleveland's defense this week. I don't think you start any defense against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Nope.
Unless the only thing I will say, the only caveat, in my league for team defense, you're rewarded 3 points per sack. That's the only thing.
Standard scoring, Cleveland is unplayable this week. You need high sack numbers because you're even unlikely to see high turnover numbers. You could see high sack numbers, but you need to be standard defensive scoring is 1 point for a sack. That's not getting you anywhere. So not
worth it. And Cleveland's return game is nothing special either. So you're not even, you shouldn't even be expecting a return touchdown. He also asked Joe Burrow or Big Ben. I'm on the Burrow train. I was going to say I would lean Burrow
this week.
Yeah, I don't like the Steelers in Buffalo this week, Ryan.
Very close, but I have Ben ahead. I would go Ben.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I feel like it's a confidence thing with Burrow too. If these guys were on paper and they were both 100% healthy, I feel like it would be Joe Burrow at that point because Minnesota's defense is worse. And they're home against Minnesota as well, whereas Pittsburgh is on the road. So And Buffalo's defense is just better. But the biggest thing with this, I think, is Joe Burrow's health. If you don't feel confident in Burrow's health, we're not saying Ben is a bad choice. Obviously, Ryan has him ahead of Joe Burrow, so it's not a bad choice. But if you feel confident in Burrow's leg, I think you lean Joe Burrow. And from Berkey, all right, he was offered D-Hop and Chase Edmonds for Adam Thielen and Allen Robinson. He already has Justin Jefferson, so he would be double stacking Jefferson and Thielen. He has Laviska Shenault, Tyler Boyd, and Kenny Golladay on the bench. He needs a bench running back, which would be Edmonds. His thoughts there. I'm sorry. He would be getting DeAndre Hopkins and Chase Edmonds. Oh, I would do that. I mean, to me, right, you're trading Hopkins for Allen Robinson, and you already have Justin Jefferson on your team, so you can't really start Thielen and Jefferson one week. So I feel like that's a win for him getting DeAndre Hopkins for A-Rod.
I'm not confident
I don't
starting
hate that trade.
And I love Thielen. I'm not confident starting both of them every week to where this gives you the ability to start Hop and Jefferson, who are both top 5 wide receivers, top 7 at the worst. And then for me, it's Tyler Boyd, who you'd be sliding into your flex, but obviously Laviska's an option there as well. If you have no bench depth at running back, I like Edmonds, especially. Is it full PPR? Does he have that anywhere?
He doesn't have it anywhere, but even at that point...
On the assumption that this is PPR, you want Edmonds. If this is somehow a standard league, I would not make that trade.
Yeah, but you're getting a starting running back in the NFL, and if you need a bench guy... Again, to me, it's... You're not going to... You can't start Jefferson and Thielen in the same week, and I'm sorry, I don't think there's a week where you're starting Thielen over Jefferson.
No, certainly. It's full PPR. Make that trade.
And it is full PPR. So you're getting rid of Thielen.
I was going to say, you could even look at this as Thielen and Robinson for Hopkins, and I still would do that trade.
And that's what I'm saying.
Hopkins is actually my wide receiver 1 in full PPR. So you're pulling in my wide receiver 1, and I think you already have Jefferson, who I think fell at my 7. So you want those players.
I would say I'm looking at it Hopkins for Allen Robinson, and Hopkins wins.
And Edmonds for Thielen. That's
Edmonds
a good point.
for Thielen.
Yeah,
and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, make that trade.
That's how I look at it. All right, Josh, I'll let you speak on Justin Herbie for a sec before we get into Ryan's stream of the week. Go for it.
Well, I mean, I kind of gave my point about Herbert already with the...
Okay, bye. Ryan, I just want to let you talk more. Ryan, actually, tell me about Ryan Tannehill, because if I'm not mistaken, I looked at multiple sites, and Arizona was one of the worst fantasy defenses last year.
I don't believe that continues this year. I think their pass rush is going to get better. I think you're going to see more Isaiah Simmons this year. I think J.J. Watt is going to be a presence in that locker room that you're not going to be able to discount. Chris brought up, the over-under on that game, and it could very well be a high-scoring game, but we also cannot discount the fact that Tannehill has been on COVID protocol for at least the last 2 weeks and has been away from the team. So Julio Jones hasn't been practicing. So obviously there's a built-in rapport with Tannehill and A.J. Brown. Anthony Firkser has looked awful in practice. He's losing time to Jeff Swain. There is one constant on this team, and that's Derrick Henry. Arizona might not be a great defense. They definitely aren't a defense that's going to have a lot of ease stopping Derrick Henry. This is the type of game where you're going to protect Ryan Tannehill. I love Ryan Tannehill for the season. I don't love him in this game. I don't think that they're going to need to use him much. Tennessee's going to want to keep the ball away from Arizona. They have the best weapon in football to do that. They're going to lean on that. If they somehow get behind early, I'm willing to be completely wrong here, but I think this is going to be a back and forth game of Henry versus Kyler. And I don't think Tannehill is going to be needed. And I don't know that he's going to be ready coming off of COVID protocol. He's technically, I think, still in a COVID protocol. I don't know that he is cleared
out
yet. So, is he okay?
He's out. Yeah, he was cleared. I think he was cleared 2 days ago.
Okay, because in a bunch of my lineups, because I have him in lineups and they were showing him as a 0. And so I was like, okay, well, I need to plan otherwise. And then when I did my full projections, I'm glad I planned otherwise because I'm not with him this year. I think he's my QB 17 this week.
Damn. Okay. I need to reassess my lineup a little bit. I think my only quarterback in that league is Dak Prescott against the Bucs, so that might be a tough get with no Zach Martin, but we'll see. It is good reasoning. COVID protocol, not with the team, not practicing with the team. It's very, very, very good reasoning there. All right. Ryan, sticking with you, your stream of the week is
back. I think
back.
Josh has something for us.
Josh has something for us.
I was going to touch on Hawkinson really quick. just because
Fine.
I know that's a hot name that everybody's like, oh, he's the only option in Detroit.
Plus, he's a week one god.
Right? Yeah, apparently. What some people may not want to realize, though, San Francisco allowed the fewest receptions to tight ends last year, and they allowed the 5th fewest touchdowns. And if you're funneling to TJ Hawkinson, you're not getting much out of it at that point. And Jared Goff has been absolutely abysmal in his career against the 49ers.
Terrible.
So exactly. And San Francisco was great against running backs too. And I understand it's going to be a different defensive coordinator, but it's still going to be a lot of the same defensive scheme with, I believe, D'Amico Ryans is now their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Who was their linebackers coach last year.
Well, plus you got to focus on weaknesses. San Francisco is super strong at linebacker, super strong at safety, weak at corner. You're not going to funnel
and
the ball to
Hawkinson's
Hawkinson.
Not a 13 yards down the field kind of guy. He works in between, 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And that's where they run that defense.
Even if he was Fred Warner, who's the reason San Francisco's tight end numbers were that good last year, Fred Warner could run with him stride for stride down the field. Hawkinson is not burning anybody. There's very few tight ends. Yeah, sorry. There's very few tight ends that are going to outrun Fred Warner, and his coverage skills are so good that it's a great point. Hawkinson should have a terrible week. And I didn't even think of the fact that Jared Goff has been abysmal.
Yep. Who else does Detroit have? All Detroit has to do, even if they say, look, Warner, we know you can handle this, but we're going to put a safety over the top here. Nobody else can cover that. There's nobody else that can bail Jared Goff out in this offense. Tyrell Williams has 2 skills. One is getting down the field and the other is getting hurt. That's it.
Hey, remember this name?
All due respect, I respect every NFL player in the league. But that's literally all Tyrell Williams is good at. Sorry.
Listen. Remember this name. Remember this name from our Detroit Lions preview show. Tom Kennedy. Do you remember that name?
No.
I looked at their depth chart. He was listed as the wide receiver 11. He is currently listed as the wide receiver 3. Tom Kennedy, 5'11", 192, out of the elite Division II Bryant University. Tom Kennedy is the X factor. Take him in DFS. You feeling really frisky this week? Throw Tom Kennedy in your DFS lineup for a calm. If he's worth $3,000, he's overvalued. He better be free in DFS.
Yeah, he's the only one. 0.
He better be free in DFS.
I know everybody likes to hype up Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had a good camp, started to build some rapport there with Jared Goff, but
he's literally 6th on the depth chart.
Well, what I was
6th.
I don't think you have to worry about that. But what I will say is yardage and touchdowns are going to be an issue, but I think he could catch a lot of balls this week because Goff is going to be playing from behind. He's going to need to throw, and he's going to want to throw safe.
Well, and that's kind of the point that I'm getting at. If you just drape TJ Hawkinson, let the rookie beat you. Let the rookie prove that.
And he's not going to beat you. Let's be clear.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to double cover Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, if you double cover TJ Hawkinson, make the rest of the offense beat you, and they won't score more than 10 points.
Yep. All right. Ryan, into your stream of the week, and a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. Jimmy Garoppolo against the aforementioned worst team in football, Detroit Lions.
I was going to say, it plays a lot into that I think San Fran's going to get up early. Jimmy G is very clearly playing for a job. This is the perfect matchup for someone playing for a job. Chris pointed out the great stats that or the horrible stats that Goff has versus San Francisco, the great stats that San Francisco has versus Goff. I think they're going to get up early. You need him to get his work done in the first half, but I think we could be looking at 3 touchdowns easy. And if he gets loose, we could be looking at a 5-touchdown game from Garoppolo. He's available in 90% of leagues. I'm still using Yahoo's numbers because finding Sleeper's numbers is a nightmare. I know a lot of people are playing on Sleeper these days, but if a guy's 90% available on Yahoo, he's probably available in your league. So
the tight end, Jordan Akins, is a big one.
I kind of made my point of who else are they going to throw to? If it's going to be somebody else in Jacksonville, it's going to be Akins. Tyrod Taylor is a guy who he's going to need to focus on the middle of the field and the tight end. David Johnson's going to play a lot of third down. Phillip Lindsay is not a great pass protecting back, but he can't catch the ball in the backfield. But I think Akins is going to kind of be the second receiver there. He's been a target guy for them, 4 to 6 targets per game in the last 3 years, but he's never gotten the touchdowns. They've always been stolen by someone else. Last year it was Darren Fells. Fells is gone now. Fells stole 4 touchdowns last year. If those touchdowns start to fall Akins' way, we're going to be talking about him as a tight end 1 this season out of volume, not a good tight end 1, one of those just a guy tight end ones, but a tight end 1 nonetheless. And Jacksonville does not have the secondary to stop him. If Miles Jack goes up against him one-on-one, it's not a matchup he'll win every time, but Jack isn't an elite coverage linebacker. I'm interested to see. But my favorite part about Jordan Akins is a guy who I am starting in leagues this week. He is literally showing as 0% owned on Yahoo. So he's out there for you.
Akins?
Yeah, 0%.
Wow.
I
mean, let's
so
be
hard.
real. As a Houston Texan, do you really want to roster anybody?
Exactly.
I mean, you really don't even want to roster Brandon Cooks. He's just the guy that's going to get most of the targets.
Oh, I disagree. I want Cooks, and I have Akins in a lot of leagues, but a lot of my leagues are deeper leagues.
I still think that's crazy, 0%. But and then the defense, Carolina Panthers against the terrible New York Jets.
The first words of my notes here are boat race. I think Carolina is going to beat them down. I had the privilege of covering the Carolina Panthers for Football Guys this offseason. That defense is, I truly think, going to be something special. They went out and got Hassan Reddick to play opposite Brian Burns. They've already started a little bit of a rivalry. They only sacked the quarterback 29 times last year. I see that number going up greatly, and with sacks comes turnovers. With sacks comes fumbles. It's the kind of things you need, fewer points, that it's going to make it a much better thing. They're going against a rookie quarterback in his very first start. I'm predicting 5 sacks, 2 takeaways, and only 14 points allowed. Not only are they my stream of the week, the Carolina Panthers are my defense 1 of the week, and they're 62% available in fantasy football right now.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay. Love it. All right. Carolina Panthers. Go get them, everybody. All right. And then my kicker of the week is back. Everyone's favorite segment. I just went with Rodrigo Blankenship. I don't really know. Honestly, I was...
Goggles, baby.
You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to put Justin Tucker. Here's why. In a draft I did, there were 6 kickers taken before Justin Tucker.
Wow.
I'll repeat that one more time. 6 kickers taken before Justin Tucker. I can't name you 6 better kickers in NFL history than Justin Tucker. So
we talked about this a lot last year. People feel trapped on this Harrison Butker where they just keep taking him as the kicker 1. Wasn't he like the number 10 last year and was just awful for fantasy
he was
football?
Worse than that, honestly.
Yeah, it's you guys. We got to pay attention. My personal favorite, my number 1 kicker this year is Jason Sanders, and on multiple websites, he was ranked like the 12th best kicker. He was the number 2 kicker behind Younghoe Koo last year. That offense is the same offense in the same division.
Younghoe Koo isn't even ranked inside the top 10 on some sites.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like it blows my mind. It blows my mind. The site I was on had Greg Zuerlein at 1 and Tucker at 2.
Zuerlein is my number 2, to be fair, but
sure, that's fair. Greg Zuerlein should not be number 1 ahead of Justin Tucker. It doesn't,
especially coming
make
off
sense.
of a back injury. I'm real scared about Zuerlein because I had him as my kicker 1. The back injury and the fact that it took him so long to get back from it, I had to move him back to 2. And I know that's like not saying a lot. Like you're taking 1 kicker, but it's something to monitor. Like back injuries are not easy things to overcome. So,
yeah. All right, let's fly through my blurred lines picks of the week here. I have picks this week, John.
I love it.
Picks with a plural S. All right, let's dive into it here. Okay, Indianapolis plus 2.5 against the Seattle Seahawks. They are a home underdog. You will hear me talk about another home underdog.
Against the
my
West
third
Coast team.
pick against a West Coast team. Yep, moving back. Now, Russell Wilson, here's the thing. I'm betting Russell Wilson has a bad first half of the season and a great second half.
Just to balance out last year.
It flips. But no, I mean, Indy at home, I'm not crazy confident in the offense. The running game I'm fine with. The passing game I'm a little suspect. But I feel like their defense is being overlooked. The offensive line for Seattle still hasn't gotten any better. It's still been terrible since Russell Wilson began his career in Seattle. And they have Darius Leonard, who can rush the passer up the middle. They have DeForest Buckner, who they brought in last year. Danico Archer, they have a bunch of studs on that defense. Julian Blackmon can blitz from the safety position. That defense is really, really good. And I think that's what sets them apart this week to help them cover. I think they win the game, honestly. So if you're feeling frisky, bet the money line. But I'm shocked Indy is... Because they're basically saying on a neutral site, Seattle's a 5.5-point favorite, and I don't agree with that. I think that's a terrible take, that Seattle's a 5.5-point favorite.
Wow, you have that much faith in Carson Wentz.
I was going to say, are we...
No, I just said I don't have
Wentz
faith in
playing?
Carson Wentz.
Wentz
is.
He's guaranteed at this point?
Official starter.
Okay.
Official starter week 1. But that's also saying in Seattle is an 8.5-point favorite? That's a lot. That's a lot for a playoff team last year in Indianapolis. And the talent that Indy has. That kind of shocked me. Now, speaking of home underdogs, the Detroit Lions are plus 7.5. Hammer the San Francisco 49ers minus 7.5. Detroit stands 0 chance against that team. If San Francisco's not up by 30 at halftime, something is wrong. The 49ers will destroy that team. They will break the will of Detroit on the first play when Raheem Mostert runs 75 yards for a touchdown.
I promise you, Joe, I was about to be bold prediction. Raheem Mostert breaks the first run for a touchdown. I swear to you, I was about to say those words.
Who's going to stop him? Tracy Walker? Who's going to stop him on that defense?
Nobody.
San Francisco will destroy that team. I don't even need to explain myself. Minus 7.5 San Francisco. Now, the explanation that my dad convinced me on, Houston plus 2.5 against the Jaguars. Now, I would feel more comfortable if you bought the point to plus 3, or buy the half a point to plus 3. Put it at minus 120 and just bet it like that. Don't leave it at minus 110. Bet it at minus 120, because if they lose by field goal, you push. You don't lose any money. Houston is a terrible football team. Urban Meyer is not a good football coach. He's a great recruiter. Trevor Lawrence has not looked good. Plain and simple, he has not looked good. And of the last 13 quarterbacks taken first overall, in their first NFL start, they're 0-13. So if history wants to repeat itself, which I'm basically betting on history here, regardless of how terrible the team is, if history once repeats itself, the last 14 quarterbacks taken first overall will have lost their opening game, with that 14th quarterback being Trevor Lawrence. Again, I feel more confident taking the plus 3 there. I said Houston was going to go 0-16 or 0-17 now this season. That would be an impressive feat, 0-17. I don't like the Jaguars this week. That's why I have Lindsey as an upside. Ryan has Cook as an upside. Just to shine some light on the Texans, they do have some talent. Brandon Cooks on the offensive side's about it. But Zach Cunningham and Neville Hewitt are 2 very good linebackers in the middle. The rest of that defense is bad, but they do have 2 good running backs, or two good linebackers to stop the best option on the Jaguars' offense, which is James Robinson. So I still think James Robinson has a good week. I'm not saying don't start James Robinson. I think Robinson has a good week, but if there's going to be a way that Houston beats them, it's through Neville Hewitt and Zach Cunningham denying James Robinson the end zone at least once. And that's really going to be their key to success, is those 2 middle linebackers that they have in Houston. So those are my 3 picks this week. Indy plus 2.5, San Francisco minus 7.5, Houston plus 2.5. Please buy the half a point to get to plus 3. If you didn't and you lose the bet, don't come yelling at me, because I told you. Those are my blurred line picks of the week, gentlemen. Now we get into what everyone actually came for. The thriving on props. Josh, you're so clever. All right, we have a new partner. We have a new partner for the 2021 season over at Thrive Fantasy. I found out about this through a tweet. I didn't even get a text. And Josh calls me. He's like, hey, did I told you about this Thrive Fantasy? I'm like, yeah, through a tweet. So found out about Thrive.
To be fair, Ryan tweeted it.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah, Josh was probably waiting to tell you, but I was excited.
So Josh explained Thrive to me, and I was a little confused when he first explained it. It was like DFS, but with prop bets, and I was like, huh, interesting. Went on. It's really cool. And if you go on and you download the app, it's just Thrive Fantasy. You can follow them, Thrive Fantasy, on Twitter. If you download the app, use the promo code CLUB, CLUB, all caps. They match your first deposit up to $100. So if you deposit $100, congratulations, you get an extra free $100 in your account.
And they make it available right away. I'm
right away.
I'm already blowing through mine.
Yeah, literally, I deposited $50. I hit the back button. There was $100 in my account. It didn't take any time. It was right there. And what they do is you basically, so there's all the Sunday games. There's even free games that they do, like specifically the Chargers this week, specifically the Jaguars, like teams like that. What we're doing for you, we're focusing on the Thursday night game. So if you download it, go ahead, download it now, Thrive Fantasy. Use the promo code CLUB to match your deposit up to $100. We did the Thursday night game. So obviously Thursday night being Dallas versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Josh, who is your Thursday night Thrive?
I got CeeDee Lamb over 0.5 touchdowns. Predominantly runs out of the slot. Sean Murphy Bunting, the slot corner for the Bucs. Gave up 6 touchdowns last year and is god-awful. I know they've talked about moving CeeDee Lamb around a lot. If the Cowboys are going to score, it's going to be through CeeDee Lamb. So I will take that over. All he has to do is score one. I'll take it.
Literally, all he has to do is score one.
Yeah.
Ryan, what's your prop?
So I took Dak Prescott over 280.5 yards. I think Tampa Bay is going to run away with this game. I don't want to say they're going to run away. I think they're going to control this game. I think Dallas is going to continually be playing from behind and needing to come back. I think Dak's ready to go. This is a team that loves to throw the football. I think he's over 300 yards easy, smashes this over. It's on the downside of picks, meaning that it's likely to happen. So you're only getting 85 points for it, but you got to take the gimmies when they give you the gimmies and gamble elsewhere. He's going over 300 yards. It's an easy one to pick up 85 points. So.
Mine is also on the technical downside, but I don't think as much as Ryan. I have Chris Godwin over 67.5 total receiving yards.
That was 95 because I was just looking at that before we jumped on the show. So
yeah, so I like Godwin over 67.5 total receiving yards. He had a lot of just deep catches last year, and if he can just get one of those and catch a few short in the slot, Dallas's secondary is so bad. That defense did not get any better. It actually got worse. That defense actually got worse. The third worst defense in NFL history got worse. Run that through your head. It got worse. It blows my mind. I love Godwin. I like a lot of the Dallas Cowboy prop bets overs. The Buccaneers prop bet overs this week. It was like Tom Brady over 3.5 touchdowns and interceptions, so he could throw 3 touchdowns and a pick, and you technically win. It is heavily favored on the under, so if you hit the over, I believe it's at 125 points. Like, if you really want to gamble there. I think there's a real possibility that could happen. But honestly, I was so impressed that, and this is something I don't think any of us had ever heard of prior to probably a couple weeks ago or so. And their platform is very intuitive and advanced, and it's super easy,
really easy to use too.
Yeah, and they're giving you free money, so I don't know why.
Well, not even just free money. There's something I want to throw out, and people might actually get mad that I'm throwing this out. The three of us might get mad that I'm throwing this out.
No,
their slates for this week, Thursday and Sunday, are guaranteed money slates. The Sunday slate is, I believe, $100,000 guaranteed, $20,000 to the first place. There's like 200 people entered into that right now. It's obscene. There is money to be made right now. Thrive wants people on the site. It's a legit site. Josh and I were able to speak with, I wish I knew his position with Thrive.
Director of marketing.
Director of marketing. So great guy. It's such a crazy story. I had just texted Josh about Thrive. I was like, there's this new thing and I want to run a segment on the show about it. And then they got a hold of him about us working with them. We're like, how crazy is that? So
wiretapping at its finest.
So. Yeah, exactly. So 100% look into it, 100% take advantage of the free money. And to make things easier for you guys, I'm getting back into my old top 5 ways. I'll be putting out a video every Thrive Day. Oh, yeah. Every Friday.
The dad joke. You gotta love it.
Every Friday, I'll be putting out a top 5 video of my favorite 5 props from my projections. So this is not just me shooting in the dark. These are my projections, my top 5 favorite props from the main slate. So I'll be throwing that out for you guys this Friday. Just the things I like most, the things that I think are going to pay out well for you.
Heck yeah.
You do know that segment's now going to be called Thrive Day Props, right? Just
boom.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not even mad. I got the dad mustache. I know who I am.
See, I'd be mad, but I literally had the idea at work to do a dad joke challenge series.
There you go. Oh, I've seen it. It's fantastic. I watch it on Facebook.
Thank you. I wrote all the jokes, so
Did
thank
you.
you.
Really?
Yeah, with research on Google, but
Obviously.
yes, I wrote the jokes. My favorite one being, if 2 vegans get into an argument, is it still called a beef?
Ooh.
That's my favorite one. My favorite classic one, asking a question, what do the red lights say to the green light? Don't look, I'm changing. That's my personal favorite. Come on. Yeah. Woo. Go dad jokes. Yeah, if you want to see the dad joke challenge, go follow the Bismarck Larks on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
As the dad of the show, I endorse that. I'm good with it. So
perfect. We love to see that. All right. That is everything.
We did it.
We did it. It's the first show. We love it. Going to be a busy season. So some housekeeping things I've been told to read by the show sheet. Tomorrow night, the debut, our 2021 debut of DFS and Chill will be tomorrow, hosted by Ryan, featuring our lead DFS writer, Kira. I'm still not going to pronounce your last name.
Wachowski.
I'm still not going to pronounce it. The first guest, I was just afraid I'm going to mess it up. Wachowski. I want to say Watertrowski, but it's not right.
Definitely don't say that.
Watertrowski. Well, it's water, but there's an I in between the W and the A, so it's confusing.
So it's not water.
In our first guest, Ryan, English is so confusing. It could be water if it wanted to be. Okay, it's so confusing. All right, and the first guest is Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie from TeamRiseOrFall.com, and then of course Saturdays are back. Well, actually, Saturdays never left, but football Saturdays are back.
we have Saturdays again.
There were no Saturdays to start 2021. There were 7-day weeks. Everyone just got confused between Friday and Sunday. They forgot what it was. Saturdays are back. Marks the 2021 debut of Start Sit Different Day. Faith Enos, co-host of Women of Fantasy Football, will host it. First guest is going to be our new DFS writer, Doug, a.k.a. Oklahomie Doug, who, from what I read in the Twitter DM, is making people mad in the writers chat this morning because of his jokes. I don't really know. I have that thing on mute. I'm not a writer, so I don't.
I knew I added you to it, but you've never interacted. But now I feel
say a damn thing.
Now that I know what's going on. So
I don't say a damn thing. You want to know how I found out about Thrive?
Twitter.
that little chat. But real quick, hi Sean. Love you, Sean.
Hello, Sean. We'll see you Saturday, buddy.
Hi, Lee. Hi, Lee. No Cam Newton memes anymore, man.
Nope.
Look, what was it? He's throwing a giraffe. Was that what it was last year? He made the giraffe thing. That was great. Okay. Next week. I'm sorry. No, not next week. What follows us tonight? Fourth in Frames is actually, I believe, happening right now.
Yeah,
Friends of Fantasy in Frames just kicked off, and at 9:30 p.m. Vipercast drops with our friends from Dynasty Vipers, so you can check that out at right now on Fantasy in Frames, and then over on Dynasty Vipers at 9:30 p.m.
It's going to be links to their YouTube page. Hit us up on Twitter at Club Fantasy FFL. There's a whole tweet thread with their YouTube links as well as ours.
Yep. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Once we hit 200, we're doing another raffle giveaway. We're going to spin the wheel.
All kinds of goodies to give away to people.
All
Kinds
kinds of goodies.
So dirty when you say that.
Yeah. He either sounds like an 80-year-old porn director or someone who drives a white van looking to give
I
children
was going to say,
candy.
if I said that with this mustache, I would get swatted. People would be in here just taking me down immediately.
You wouldn't.
That's why you
it's
just
weird.
got to grow it all out, right?
It's weird. You wouldn't be allowed within 200 yards of a schoolyard if you
Yep.
said that. So that's, yeah. No, nothing. I thought that was funny. Jeez, come on, guys. Lighten up. Hour 10 into the show. Off the rails. Okay.
There you go.
That is
that's
all we have.
Amazing for us.
I know. As I'm about to wrap up. That is all we have this week. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Same time, same place next week. I will be back in my normal studio, not holding a yellow-covered microphone. Josh will be in his spot. Ryan, if you noticed, has a new backdrop because he has moved.
This will not be the permanent backdrop. I'll be on a new backdrop next week. Too,
well, Maggie wanted me to tell you that she likes the new backdrop, so you might want to keep it.
It's gone. Check out this painting my wife did, though.
She did that?
Yeah.
Ryan, you really outkicked
Outkick the coverage.
dude. Like legitimately, like you're not. She's in the major leagues. I don't even think you made rookie level baseball. Like
I think Maggie will like the new
at.
backdrop. It's Marlia's office. It's way higher class than I am. So it'll bring some much needed class to the show.
Yeah, gonna be high class. What you say? What are you saying? My backdrop isn't high class. I think it's high class.
Your backdrop's pretty dope.
Thanks, man. All right, you can follow Club Fantasy on
So
Facebook,
Josh's.
Twitter, and Instagram at Club
Mine
Fantasy
always
FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com, where there's articles dropping there every single week. DFS and chill tomorrow night. Start sit different day Saturday. Go check out Fantasy Frames at right now and Dynasty Vipers at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. Ryan and Kira will see you tomorrow night with at Detroit Beastie Chris Robin.